Good Vach, everyone. Um, Shabbos after Purim. Um, Obviously, a tremendous body blow with the stalkers of Kanievsky. It's you know when his father, the stapler, when he passed away, and Reb Chaim Kanievsky was sitting Shiva. They said that they didn't say anything because what was there to say? I mean, Stipler passed away. I mean, what can you say? And the same thing is obviously now. You know, we delved into Sefer Vayikra, Parshas Tzav, the Korbanos, Mis Tzadikim Mechaperes. When the Satmar Rebbe, Vayel Moshe, Zet Tzadik Rosh Levracha, when he was Mistalik, Rav Shach, was maspid him. Now, the Satmar Rebbe and Rav Shach were ostensibly on the two sides of the political map, as it were. The Satmar Rebbe being so adamantly, against anything that had to do with the state of Israel. And Rav Shach, he not only, that he made up another political party, the Galatera, and he supported Rav Ovadia Yosef in creating Shas with Rav Hederi and Satmar Rebbe. The whole thing was complete antithesis of this hashkafa. So when Rav Shach spoke, about the hesped to the Satmar Rebbe, he said that the Satmar Rebbe was like the northern star, and that navigating the ship of the generation was, you always do it, how you're holding vis-a-vis the northern star, the navigation. So Satmar Rebbe was the constant. Is either we went to the right of him or to the left of him, whatever. But he was that constant, that the conscious of Am Yisrael, shkofa wise, and the whole thing. So the Gedolim had their own deis on how to handle things, but it was always relative to the Satmar Rebbe. And the Satmar Rebbe was also, I think, he was 94, 95, I'm not sure. Maybe more, I'm not sure. And so Rav Shach said that hesped, he said that people might think that somebody at the age of such, Baruch Hashem, advanced age. So people might think, so like Baruch Hashem, he lived his life, he lived the full life and everything, whatever it is. But it was totally the opposite. He says that when Kedusha exists in this world for that many years, it becomes greater and more profound and more the bedrock of the generation. So it's a much, losing any Torah great at any age is tremendous. But when somebody is, of that age, like Baruch Hashem, we were blessed, that the recent Gdolei Israel, we all, Baruch Hashem, most of them were, lived very, very long life, Rav Steinman was over 100, and Rav Eliashiv was over 100, and Rav Yosef was not far from that. I believe that Reb Gershon Edelstein, Rosh Yeshiva Sponovich, he's like 97, whatever it is. And Baruch Hashem, it's a great thing. And Reb Chaim, was 94. It's it is impossible to tell about the godless and the idea satira. Reb Chaim simply knew the entire Torah. Everything was open to him. Everything was in front of him. The entire Torah was in front of him. He basically knew everything, and it was like, in front of him. But, and he kept on writing another sefer and another sefer, and he had plans for many more. He kept on writing another sefer, another sefer, another sefer, Allahs of this and Allahs of that, visiting every corner of the Torah. And obviously, and even beyond that, he was connected to Torah in such a degree that when people ask me about Gdolim, we spoke about it. When Gdolim are, when they are connected to Torah in such a way, when you come and ask them a question this or a question that about this or about that, it's never, like, let them think about it and give you what you call a quote unquote a human answer, as it were. They kept on giving you Torah answer. They would give Torah answer. So it was many times, with all the Gdolim, when people would come to ask them, and I heard there was somebody, some came to Kanievsky and said about his daughter. His daughter is not well. Many times, his name I think her name was Dina. So Kanievsky told him, that's not a good name. So they changed the name. So another time, so he told other people, he changed the name. Oh Hashem, she was healthy, and So another time he came to Reb Chaim Kanievsky and he reiterated that he told other people that the name Dina for girl was not a good name. So Reb Chaim Kanievsky said, "Why is it not a good name? It's a very good name." In other words, for your daughter, it's not a good name, but it doesn't mean it's not a good name, b'chlal. When a tzaddik is connected to Torah in such a way, as Rabbeinu says in Torah Ches L'kutam Haran Chelek Aleph, that the tzaddik is davak b'Torah, and every single breath that he takes is from the Torah, and with Chiddush, and the entire generation gets, they get the Ruach Chaim, they get it from the Tzaddik Ador. It's like no, Vnei Yisrael is good. Asrefa Shesoref Hashem. It says Misus Tzadikim Mechaperes B'zat Hashem Kapora. Baruch Hashem Lo Alman Israel. There are still Baruch Hashem Tzadikim. There are Tzadikim. Hashem B'zat Hashem. All Ma'arich Ibnei Mishnosem B'zat Hashem Tov B'Ne'imim. But it's it's a hard day. I didn't know, that he was mistalik until Shabbos Mincha. Somebody told me, is it a blow? What are you talking about? So they told me. I wish they wouldn't have told me on Shabbos, but that's what I heard. Boom. I remember, like 45 years ago, something like that. 44 years ago. 43 years ago, I'm not sure. I lived in the same street as Reb Chaim Kanievsky. I lived opposite his father, the Stipler. And it's a special street, b'chlal, but it was, at that time, it was like, I moved from Tel Aviv to Rashbam number 9. And number 10 was across the street, was the Stipler. On the right side, the house right to our side, lived Rabbi Sohel Hager, who is the Vizhnitzer Rebbe today. And a few houses down the street the other way lived today's the Ger Rebbe. And obviously the Stipler on the other side, and the end of the street of Chaim Kanievsky lived, and Rabbi Yehuda Shapira lived there, Rabbi Chaim Weintraub, and Gedalia Narl, the big Talmud of the Chazon Ish. In the middle was, me and my wife and a cat. People were freaking out. It's like looking at. We lived in a second floor, third floor, I think, third floor. So the cat would jump on the ledge over there. And the kids at Bnei Brak, since when did they see a cat? Who has a cat in the house? So the cat was sitting there on the ledge, and everybody, look at the cat. They didn't know. I came from Tel Aviv. What did I know from Bnei Brak? I wanted to move to Bnei Brak. I went to Bnei Brak. You smack in front of the Stipler with a cat. People left us a zettel in the mailbox to make sure not to bring in television to the house. Chaval de'avni v'lo mishtakhin. It says, Chaval al de'avdin v'lo mishtakhin. He says, woe to those who are lost, and the like of which cannot be found. That's what they say. Chaval de'avdin v'lo mishtakhin. So B'tzvi Cheshin actually it is said in the Levaya of his sister. He says, it's a double lotion. What do you mean? Chaval de Avdin, the Lamishtakchen, obviously if they're Avdin, if they're lost, then they cannot be found. He says, it's not that woe for those who were lost, it could no longer be found. It means that woe for those who are lost and their kind cannot be found. I mean, they say that every day that a tzaddik is mistalik, then a tzaddik is born. Do hoylech v'do ba. But nevertheless, I mean, first of all, that tzaddik was in his peak, and this tzaddik is not just born. And hoylech v'do, the generations are going down, and we need a lot of Yeshuas. Shem should help. Okay, let's delve in with the mice of the Baal Shem Tov. Once in the Kila of Constantine, there was a person who did not have any children. And he came a few times to Baal Shem Tov and asked him for, to have sons. Once he asked him to bless him with a child, and the Baal Shem Tov promised him that his wife will give birth to a baby boy. But he ordered him that on the day that his wife will give birth, to come and let him know. And so it happens that his wife gave birth to a baby boy from the bracha of the Baal Shem Tov, and he came to the Baal Shem Tov, ecstatically, and told him. And when he came to Baal Shem Tov and he told him that his wife gave birth, the Baal Shem Tov held himself really tight until he couldn't hold himself, and he started crying. And he was like inconsolable. So the man asked the Baal Shem Tov, why is the Rav crying? The Baal Shem Tov told him, because I see that the day that the boy will be bar mitzvah, he will drown in the river, and he will die. And he told the man, he says, for sure, until that day, you won't remember him. You'll forget it. He says, that will be the signal for you. He says, at the same day, you'll see that you'll be wearing, by mistake, 2 socks on 1 foot. And then you will look after the second sock, and you won't find it. He says, if that day you will keep an eye on the boy, that he shouldn't even see water, not alone go to the river, he shouldn't even see water, then the verdict will be ameliorated, and the judgment will not come to pass. He says, but if you will forget that, or if you will just say that, it's just a coincidence, then bevadai, the boy will drown in the river. No, the person heard and he went home. And so it was. As time went by, the person forgot, everything the Baal Shem Tov told him. And the day when the boy was bar mitzvah, the man went to shul, and his boy was still sleeping. And when he came from shul, he saw the boy looking for something at the corner of the house. He goes from one corner of the house to another, And his father asked him, what are you looking for? So the boy said, I'm looking for a sock. I'm missing a sock. And the father saw that the son wore his two socks on the same foot, and he didn't pay attention. And when he saw this, he remembered what the Baal Shem Tov told him. He decided he's going to guard his boy and not let him out of his eyesight. That day was a very, very hot day, and all the people in town, they went to the river. So the kid ran out of the house, and he wanted to run to the river to bathe, and immediately the father ran after him and caught him and brought him to the house. When the father saw that the boy is like craving to go to the river, it's like he's going berserk. He wants to go to the river, and it's impossible, to prevent it from going there. He took the boy, and he put him in a room, and he locked the door. He basically incarcerated the boy. And the entire day, the boy was screaming, "Marashchoyer, get me out! Where's your Rachmanis? I'm sweltering." And they didn't even pay attention. They didn't even give him water to drink. And after Mincha, before the end of the day, when the people of the town were by the river, they saw a very scary image coming out of the river and hitting the water with great anger. And they heard that image is saying, my boy is not going to be here anymore. And immediately sunk into the river and disappeared. At that moment, the boy calmed down from his tantrum and became tired, and he went to sleep. Be'ezras Hashem, the boy grew up, b'toiv, had a long life, Baruch Hashem, as the Baal Shem Tov said. Ad kan, the Ma'aseh for Baal Shem Tov, B'ezras Hashem, Hashem Yisbarach should save us all from all imgach, all the Let's take a look at Sichos Haran for this week. Sicha Kuf Tes Zayin, 116. One person was talking to Rabbeinu and was complimenting, was mishabeach, was praising a person that he is behaving with yashras, honesty. He's an honest person. He says he's an honest person. So Rabbeinu said, on a Jew, it's not shaykh to say that he's an honest person. And he says, Umas ha'olam, the goyim, by them, they have manners, they have things, they behave the way that their Sichos says. The Sichos says, and when they're good people, they do what the Yosha says, honesty is mechad. This is called an honest person. But Israel is a Am Kodesh, and even these mitzvahs, that is really al derech eretz, is what the Yosha, what honesty and the Seichel obliges. Even this mitzvahs, they don't do because of derech eretz. They don't do it because it makes sense. They don't do it because it's the right thing to do, like, morally, the morally right thing to do. They only do it because the Kodesh Baruch Hu Yisbarach Shmo said in the Torah to do it like that. That's the only reason why they do it. And this is Dov Melech said, the Melech Hashem said, Derech mitzvosecha orutz. The way the derech of your mitzvahs I will run. In other words, even the mitzvahs and the conducts that are called derech, in other words, derech eretz. This is being polite, being. In other words, it's just mitzad derech eretz in the yosher. A person is mechuyev, to behave that way, not to guzzle his friend and not to steal. David Melech says even those, the mitzvahs that are bechinas derech, that's shkafadik. This is what you should do. Is mitzvotecha oretz. I'm not being mekayim this mitzvah this derech eretz because, in Israel they love using this derech eretz kodma l'Torah as if they're doing the Torah, because they mean it's supposed to be a mensch before. No, it's a imachmas mitzvah is a Torah kedosha. We're doing it because the Torah says so, not because derech eretz said so. The derech mitzvosecha oretz. Even the mitzvahs that are b'chinas derech, in other words, that they emanate mitzad of this derech eretz, afal b'chen, still it's mitzvosecha oretz. I run with your mitzvahs. In other words, I'm not mekayem chas v'sholom these mitzvahs because it's the polite thing to do, the derech eretz, the moral thing to do. Mitzvosecha oretz. I'm running to be mekayem mitzvahs that you are decreed on us in the Torah. That's why Chazal said, and here you see it's remez toch remez. Chazal said Israel kruim Adam. Jews are called Adam, men. When Akum kruim Adam. The Goyim are not called Adam. So it seems like, what is the it's like like talking down or looking down at the Goyim, as if the Goyim need looking down upon. But Rabbeinu says no. The reason why Israel is they're called Adam, and the Goyim are not called Adam, is because Adam, man, is Rosh Tevos derech mitzvasecha oretz. The first letter of every word is Daled, Mem, and Aleph is Adam. Am Yisrael, even the mitzvahs that are mitzad, seichel, derech eretz, even those mitzvahs don't mekayim because it's yosher, because it's the sensible, the moral, the whatever it is. But mitzvahs, the Torah says so. That's what I call Adam. Adam means derech mitzvasecha oretz. This is the pshat of the inyan of Adam. That brings us a couple of inyanim that Zoi Satira Adam. Kanievsky, this is Zoi Satira Adam. When is a person called Adam, as Rabbeinu is saying here? When he's Torah. When he's not being polite. When he's not doing what he's doing because it's the derech eretz thing to do. It's the polite thing to do. It's politically correct thing to do. He's doing it because the Torah says to do it. When a person is totally Torah, then he's called Adam. Adam is known, in Kabbalah, this is Sefer Arizal, this is Shem Shem Havaya, it's the Shem Havaya of Olam Abriya. No, sorry, for only Yetzirah. Absag Maban, and so one of the guys here asked, what is it that I spoke about, that people that are in their 40s, that they pass through some difficult times. It's called mid-age crisis. And people need to understand, Baruch Hashem, a few people who are entering, that stage in their life. And so they need to know what that means, because inevitably they're going to go through it. And you need to know what to do, not only for yourselves, but for your spouses. You see, when a person enters his 20s, he feels like the entire world is his oyster. There's nothing that he can't do, or he thinks there's nothing he can do, whatever your story is. But that's the time. That's the time when a person feels that, it's time, the world is before you, and you're looking to do this, to do that, to be Mekayim this, to be Mekayim that, open up a business, or whatever it is that you do. Then you have children, the children grow, they're still very, very small. And when you enter your 30s, it's the time where you're basically you're already, like half a mensch. It's like this is your peak. Your prowess is, physically and early 30s, middle 30s. This is where you're entering your stride, as it were. This is when you're making you're forging ahead. And then it comes to a certain apex when you're 40, and then up to the age of the middle 40s. Then middle 40s, late 40s, till we're at 50 something, a person suddenly realizes that he is slowing down. And there is a very strong sense of retrospection. What have I done with my life? What have I done with myself? So already in your mid-30s, you're already starting to see that your hands don't look as young as they did, and your face don't look as young as they did. But that's okay. Besides, though, you realize this is what. But in mid-40s to late 40s, this is the time when there's a very deep as I said, the retrospection of what have I done with the feeling that a very strong feeling, unless of course you're Torah Jew and you're into it and this is all you're into. But if you're not totally Dovak in Torah, what happens is that you feel that may feel that like you missed out on a lot. So, both men and women of that particular age many times feel, they may look at their partner and they see that their partner has aged, and they feel, that I'm still young. I still have a lot to offer. It's like it happens to both men and women, and they figure like, my spouse is, I was actually carved out for better things. This is not, I deserve a better life. I should have or could have or would have or, any partner, that was an option, or you thought it was an option when you were very young, suddenly becomes like, I've given up on this one or that one or this one or that one, and what have I got in return, whatever it is. And the big struggle in that particular, point in time is to understand that it's demyonis. These are fantasies. Because it is normal for a person at that particular age to look at what he doesn't have or what she doesn't have. Because what they do have, they take for granted. But, person get used to good, but they don't get used to not good. So they just feel, she's not letting me be who I am, and she's just holding me back, or he's just holding me back, whatever it is. It all depends who is, the more powerful in the couple, whatever. And so, quite a few people, families fall apart. Can fall apart, chas v'chalila, at that particular junction. Men, because they feel, that, they're still young and they don't have to settle for a spouse that is not as young as she used to be. I can, be. And same thing with women. They have all this kind of dimyonis, and in the age of dimyon. For those people, I just want to tell you that in every age, there are fantasies. Especially, 30s, 40s, 20s, 30s, 40s, whatever it is. That suddenly you get infatuated, fantasy, this is like that. That person is my mate. That person may be married to somebody else. What are you talking about? It's like you have your spouses, you have your spouse, or whatever it is. What are you talking about? Another person. But it can be almost like a madness, like an obsession, and you get to think that person, that is my basher, and I am, every day that I'm not with him or with her, whatever it is, I'm missing out. I'm living the wrong life. I don't. And the only thing you need to do in order to overcome that is just don't do anything at all. That's it. Don't push. Don't act on it. That kind of obsession will burn in on itself and it'll die away. The same thing happens to midlife crisis. You will think what you will think, and it's very similar to what teenagers go through. There's too much fire, and the way of looking at the world is too black and white. There's not enough kalim to contain the energy, the fire that teenagers have. It's something similar, the same kind of confusion, the same kind of feeling that it can't be that it's over. It can't be that my youth is over. It can't be that my best days are behind me. And they're not. Your best days are not behind you. They're in front of you. It's just different. But because we are, for better or worse, we are heavily influenced by Americanization. In America, per se, is an adolescent society. I think Mark Twain said that youth is the oldest American tradition. It's like people, America looks at itself as youth. Everything's looking from, everything is possible. The main thing is to dream, like youth, adolescents, they dream. And so when you're slowing down, for Americans, it's a big blow. It's funny. There are other cultures in which, when somebody is in Torah, obviously it is what it is during the time, and when you're young, and as you're growing, and when you get older, and you get wiser, and Baruch Hashem, this is when you start to get into your own. In '94, Kanievsky is basically that's the peak. That's the peak. He still had Kivyochel like good years in front of him, as it were. The Indians in India, they I think that they divide the life of a person into 4 stages. That the first part of youth is the least interesting of them all. Then the next 20 years is like, when they work and their families, whatever it is, and then the part afterwards is the part where they disengage from everyday life and they become whatever it is that they do. They get this already. And then the last 20 years of their lives, or whatever it is, they're going around and sees if they already did. The Indians. Americans are different. And we are Americanized in that way. So the midlife crisis can be very difficult. But the answer to the midlife crisis, like, that kind of obsession the person can get, of demyonis, of unbelievable pull to somebody that has nothing to do with you, is just to wait it out. Same time, I want to tell anybody who's still out there, who's young enough and silly enough to smoke, don't do it. Your body basically will take everything and you dish out up to the age of 50. When at the age 50, all the chickens come home to roost. All the checks come back to the bank. That's the time where everything that you dish to your body, this is, they come back asking for all the loans all the checks that you've written out on the account of the health of your body. So take a look, take a good care of yourself. Anybody who will be Mitzvah Shem in Bnei Brak tomorrow, but the Levaya, please be representative for me, for anybody else who is not going to get to Bnei Brak tomorrow. The world has become dark with the status of Kanievsky. It feels a little bit like going around, with the head missing, like you're just a body. Like, where's my head? The head is gone, like the goyim, when they process chickens and just behead them, and the chickens keep on running, without the head out of. It's a very similar feeling. Like, don't know what the head is. B'ezrat Hashem Yisborach will, B'ezrat Hashem, Mekayim, Bilo, Mavis Lanetzach, death should end forever. Umocha Hashem Dima Mal Kol Ponim, Yisborach Hu should wipe away the tears from all the faces of all of us, Klal Yisrael. Mrs. Tzadikim Mechaperes, it's Avada Gavaldik Kapora for all of us. And this is the time. Chaim was in many ways he represented the Chassidification of of the Litvischer world, because he was for all intent and purposes he was a rebel. You know, he didn't have a tish, but other than that, I mean, they would come and ask him everything, and he was a whatever he said goes. You know, it's a like a tzaddik from the olden days. It was and you know all this the tzedakah campaigns they were doing. Get from Reb Chaim's wine that he makes siyum, and get from this, and get from that, and Reb Chaim will think of you, or will mention you, or whatever. It was never like that, and that in itself is Bezrat Hashem. It's a promise that because behind Reb Chaim Kanievsky there is a bigger tzaddik ador, Bezrat Hashem, that will be revealed, and Bezrat Hashem will lead us all to Bias Mashiach Tzedkenu, Bezrat Hashem Bekor B'Yameinu Mamesh, Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Kol Tov, just